Okay, let's get into the book a bit. This is a digital workplace, soft skills for digital workplace. And with COVID, we also survived COVID. Um, this might be pertinent. See what you think of this. See if this will work. Because we're changing the way we're doing business now, very much so. I think we're going to see more and more online. So let's see what we can do here. So what we want to do is understand why organizations want teams. And there are different types of groups and teams. There's a difference between groups and teams. And we want to make sure we're successful, right? We want to empower teams. We're going to find out what empower means. How do you reward somebody with a team that's on the team or the team itself? How do you get a high performing team? And what about these distributed teams, these teams that don't meet regularly? How do you work with them? We've already talked a little bit about why people should be in teams and what's in it for them as an individual. But organizations like to use teams because they reflect a large organization. So if you got teams that aren't very successful, you probably need to take a look at the overall organization. You got some issues. And successful teams make for successful organizations. If you got a big project and it's way too big for one person, teams allow you to complete the big projects because you got shared work, right? And also, you get a broad range of solutions, you get some synergy. So I might have a solution to a problem, but it's probably not the best solution. If I get in a team, the team will work together and come up with a better solution. Might not be the best solution, but it'll be better, I think. It also creates a sense of obligation, commitment, and motivation. Uh, I just read an article about the Nazi police, right? These are old people, not soldiers, and how their role in the Holocaust made them physically sick to do what they were doing, but they felt more of an obligation to the team, to the group, than they did towards what they were doing. It's very interesting, right? And teams, if you're part of a team that makes a decision, you're more likely to accept that decision. Right? Okay, this is out of the book. This is at Quest Travel, and they're going to open up a new office, I think, in Chicago. Way, way, way too much for one person to do. So what you do then is you look at the individual task, and you can delegate and work together as a team. That's the advantage of a team. You can accomplish more. Teams can find creative solutions, and I'm going to use the example not of the quest, but basically, if you think of the space race, right? How do you get somebody to the moon? There's no way. Werner von Braun got us started, but there's no way he could have taken us to the moon. It took a team, a big team. Look at SpaceX, the International Space Station. All these things require a lot of teams doing a lot of work and coming up with very, very creative solutions. That's what teams can do for you. There are some different types of groups and teams. First, most basic is the basic work groups. These are people that just work together, right? They might have similar titles or whatever, but they really don't interact with each other. I've been in a couple jobs or a couple organizations. People don't know each other, and they might be sitting right next to each other. They still don't know each other. This is a basic work group. They're there, but they don't interact with each other. The next group is a committee, right? It's just a group of people who discuss topics that matter to an organization or are part of an organization. If it's a whole organization, they might uh, call it the executive committee uh, or board of directors, something like that. If it's a smaller group, it could be any type of committee, right? There are two types. There's a temporary, they meet to talk about a specific problem, and once that problem is addressed, that, that committee goes away. Then you got standing committees. These are these are committees that just go on forever. They're permanent. They're a fixture. They don't go away. Okay, now we're going to start talking a little bit about teams, project teams, right? These are teams that are people that work together for designing a new product or a new service, and they got well-defined. They know where they're going. They got a goal. They know what they have to do, right? They have a budget. They have a schedule to complete. These things usually last until the project is done. These are project teams, people working together to complete a project. Then we have task forces and ad hoc teams. These are teams that form and they work on a specific task or activity. We just had a great example when the pandemic struck. We had some ad hoc groups and task forces. How do we deliver education safely? And how do we keep our students safe? How do we keep the faculty safe? And how do we cope within this pandemic to make sure that we keep on doing our mission? These are task force and ad hoc teams. Self-managed work teams. This actually is an idea that came out of Japan. What they do is take people that naturally work together, right? And we tend to naturally form into teams. We're hardwired to be in a team, right? We talked about that. So what the managers in Japan did said, hey, this is your area. This is what you got to do. Go for it. Make it better. And they just turn them loose. These are self-managed work teams. Very little supervision. Just basically it's people controlling their own destiny to make their lives better, make their group better or their team better. Self-managed work teams. So the last one we're going to talk about is special purpose teams. These are very similar to the task force, except they're permanent. And you also got management directly involved in this. The example in the book is quality circles. Again, that's another Japanese innovation. Basically, it's just very much like the self-managed work teams, except management is very much involved in it, and they keep on permanent. They always find a way to do it better and better and better. These are these are special purpose teams. I like this slide here. Every time I call customer service and talk to somebody who's in a work group, I always imagine these people here. The guy on the other end is always smiling and happy, and everybody around there's happy, right? But just a quick review. Work group, you got committees, you got quality circles, you got project teams, just different types of groups and teams. So what's the difference between the groups and teams? The biggest difference is teams have a shared sense of purpose. They have a common goal, common objective. A group is just people who work together, but they could follow the same procedures. And we'll have an example on the next slide, but they don't really have a shared sense of purpose or a shared goal. They have individual goals. And here's the example from the book. A bunch of computer technicians fixing computers. Yeah, their goal is to fix computers, but it's not to fix computers as a group. It's all individual goals. If you think of construction workers, on the other hand, they have a common goal: is get a building put up and ready for occupying. That's a difference between a group and a team. The construction people have a shared goal, finishing a building. Here are some 6 differences between a team and a group. By definition, a group's just a collection of individuals. So teams are actually a group, right? But what makes it a team is it's working together to meet a common goal, that shared objective. The focus in a group is the individual just focus on what he or she has to do, not what the group has to do. In a team, it's got a common goal, right? And they got a common task. And they share all the different responsibilities. And we'll talk about that in later lessons. Objectives, it could be different from one member to another in a group. For a team, it's all the same, right? So a basketball team, the goal is to have more points than the other ones. Is a common objective. Rewards, individuals get rewarded in groups. Teams get rewarded in teams. Trust, there's really not that much trust within groups. It's not developed like they have to. In team, very simply, just think of your family or anybody. We're hardwired to work in teams again, and you develop trust with those people, right? And decisions. I've had jobs where I wasn't paid to think, right? It was made by somebody, and there you go, right? I was just take whoever made that decision. I had no input on it. Teams should, and they will, make decisions that collaborate with the decision maker. It's a shared decision, not just a decision dictated to you. One of the things you're going to hear about is the team goals, and I can't tell you how important a goal for a team is. And this goal can be set by management or somebody else, but basically the team has to internalize it and say, how are we going to accomplish this goal? But its team goals are important, and it's got to be shared. How are you going to get there? And when you form a team, right, you got to understand what each member brings to the table, right, and what's expected of them. So you have like the leader, of course, but then you'll have like the expert, you got the facilitator, you got informal ones like somebody who keeps the peace. They all have a role, right? Well, it's interesting, and we'll talk about this later in other classes. As teams mature, the leader goes away. The leadership role is shared by the team members, and the leader becomes less and less visible in a team. And having said that, until you get to that point where everybody knows each other, they trust, and all the well-functioning team, a leader will emerge from the group, right? A lot of times organizations will assign a leader to a group, right? But the best leaders come from within the group, right? So the team member has to emerge as a leader. There's got to be tolerance within a team, and you got to respect people's differences. The more diverse the team is, usually the better the team performs, better solutions. You get different perspectives, different ideas, so you got to respect and tolerate those differences. Very, very important. Have you ever seen those teams or groups? I'm going to call them groups or teams that form, but they don't seem to accomplish anything. They just go on forever and ever and ever and ever. The Vickers, I'm going to use Vickers safety team, 40 members strong, right? But they didn't do it. Nothing was happening to improve our safety. Just absolutely no sense of urgency. I think they met once a month just so they could have donuts and coffee and get out of the factory for a couple hours. But you got to have that sense of urgency. It's got to get done. Interesting, the shorter the deadline, the better the efficiency, the better performance. And there are a lot more don'ts than do's. And these are ways to kill a team, or at least hinder it quite a bit. First one, don't wait for the managers. If you have an idea and a goal, suggest it to the manager. Say, this is what we're going to do, and hopefully he'll salute it and let you get on with it. We're going to talk a little bit about what has to happen within teams. Don't snuff out a team role that needs to be done. You know, some things have to just happen, right? So we'll talk about it, but don't snuff out important roles. And don't assume somebody else's role, right? Let them do it. And if they make a mistake, well, let them fix it, right? Don't take over somebody's role. You want to make somebody disengaged from a team, take away his role and watch what happens. He'll just quit the team. He might still show up to the meetings, but he's going to quit. In the Israeli Air Force, the leader of an attack, right, isn't the most senior officer flying that day. The leader is the most skilled, the best tactician. So you could have like a captain telling a colonel what to do during a war. Don't automatically make the highest ranking person the leader. And you don't want to avoid the necessary task until a leader emerges. In fact, it's just the opposite. The leader will emerge as you do these tasks, right? So don't wait for a leader to come out. No, do what you have to do, and the leader will come out of those tasks. You may have, this happens quite a bit at school. I'm just going to criticize them a bit. We have to come up with ideas. I'll use one, evaluations, right? The evaluation, what came out of that was no, we didn't get out outside the box at all. All we did is rewrite some of the questions, right? That's don't encourage. You want weird ideas. You want things that are strange, uh, way out there, and see if you can come up with new ideas. I'm going to tell a quick story. Back, I don't know, 40 years ago, Walmart and Kmart were the big ones. Kmart was up north, Walmart was down south. Well, the two bosses, Sam and the guy's name begins with a K, said, "Hey, let's get together, right?" So Sam goes up there and says, "This is how I think we should run it." And the guy at Kmart, "You obviously don't understand retail." So the Kmart guy did it the way he always did it, big warehouses, stocking shelves, and all that. And Sam, well, we all know what Sam did. Don't discourage new ways of thinking. You want to encourage new ways of thinking. Watch out for this urgency, right? If you're sprinting for a long time, man, after a while, you're just going to burn out. I mean, absolutely everything, it almost comes to a dead stop, right? Don't keep up the urgency for long periods. You got a little burst of energy, right? That's what you want. And don't just make up reasons to be urgent, right? Why? Again, you want to be urgent about some things, but pick those things carefully. Don't make everything a got to do it now thing. That hurry up and wait kind of attitude. Don't invent a reason to be urgent. Okay, these are different team roles. This is out of the book, and you can see what the specialist, recorder, peacemaker, facilitator, creative thinker. Um, and you can see what they do. The last one to come out of this is the leader. The leader's going to emerge from the group. Even if you got somebody appointed to be the leader by management, what typically happens, within that group there'll be somebody else that's also a leader, and they'll be the informal leader. And surprisingly, they might have more power than the formal leader. Did you ever have like a really great idea, right? And you couldn't implement it because management wouldn't let you. And this is tough for management to give up power, but empowering means you enable the team members to think, behave, act, and make decisions without being dictated what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, or anything like that. They have independence, and they make those decisions independently. It's tough because will they make mistakes? Yeah. It's tough to sit back. Think of raising your kid. It's tough to sit back and watch your kid learn to walk. But the only way he's going to learn, or he or she's going to learn, is if you just let him fall down a couple times, right? But you got to empower the teams, right? And they can. They don't. That doesn't mean they don't act independent of management. They still have to communicate. They got to explain why, and they got to be responsible, and they might have to work with other teams within the organization. Just because you're independent doesn't mean you don't work with the other people, not in your team. Have you ever been put on a team and you really don't know what you're supposed to do, right? That happens quite a bit, right? So what you want to make sure is before you even start the team, what is the purpose and expectations, right? What do you want from this team? What do you want from me? That type of thing. And then you want to make sure that the people that have the power, right, the authority, that's going to support the team, right? The team will not be successful if you don't have management's backing on it. It's just not going to happen. Survey after survey after survey. The number one problem within an organization is communications. And the reason why managers are scared to empower is a lot of times the teams don't communicate. And without that communication, well, you're hesitant to give up power. Communication. And you're going to have obstacles in your way, keeping you from success, these roadblocks and barriers. Figure out what they are and what you have to do to deal with them. So you want to identify roadblocks and barriers. You've always heard it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Not necessarily if you're a team. You overstep what you're authorized to do, you'll be snuffed. Just that simple. So always ask for authorization before you do something. Some big don'ts. Again, there's going to be more don'ts than there are do's, I think. But don't assume that everybody knows why or why the team is being formed, right? And that happens actually quite a bit. People just show up. They say, well, why am I here? What is my purpose? Don't assume that. Be very, very clear on why there is a team. And again, if you don't have support from management, do whatever you have to get off that team. It's just not going to work. Until you get management to support your team, don't commit to it. This is a big one. Don't burden the manager with the details. I do some things with Six Sigma. And oh my goodness, I had one team. They talked for 4 hours about their project on the report out. Don't do that with it. Just give them the big 5,000 foot view. Don't get down in the trenches with your management. It won't be appreciated. A lot of times, people will come up and they'll talk about a problem they're having. And I can tell just by the way they're talking about it, they already have the solution, right? So if you got a problem, come up with possible solutions, right? It might not be the solution that's implemented, but it'll actually get the ball rolling a bit. And management will appreciate the fact that you're trying to solve a problem, not just identify a problem, right? Huge difference. Don't just point out the problems, fix the problems. Don't if you can do other things while you're waiting for one part of the your team's progress to be approved. Go on, go around it. Just keep on going, keep moving forward. Do the old blitzkrieg. Just they got a barrier, and it's come from management, just like the blitzkrieg did. Go around that, right? Keep on moving. Keep the team moving forward. So why do organizations have teams? Well, they might want to produce something, in this case a website. We're talking about the Quest thing, and website, come up with a plan, get a building, write a handbook, generate ideas, slogans, serve customers, product promotions, or solve problems, right? Identify problems, get some solutions, look at the different proposals, and project potential problems. What could happen? Some things for rewards for team effort. Some of the things you want to do: promote your team. If you get a chance, brag on your team. Brag on the team members. Very, very, very good motivation. Just brag on somebody, and watch what that does to the morale. I'm going to rag a little bit on evaluations, performance reviews, or whatever you want to call them. Research has shown that a formal review does not motivate people to get better. In fact, if anything, it creates extra stress and demotivates them. But if that's the environment you live in, make sure that if there is an evaluation, whether it's formal or informal, the ones I kind of like, make sure it includes team effort. Were you part of a team, and did you help with the team? That would be the best way to do evaluations. Make sure that team is included in the evaluations. When I was working with a company, it was a hydraulic company, and we were doing benchmarks, right, of other hydraulic companies. And we were way behind other companies. But you talk to the people internally, it says, well, at least we're not as bad as Joplin, which is a sister plant. You don't shoot for the minimums. Exceed expectations. Go for the max. Go for the best, right? It used to frustrate me when I was in the Army. We'd have to do our physical fitness test, and the minimum push-ups was like 40 or something. And people would get to 40 and they'd quit. But the max would be like 65. And the better soldiers went for the 65, not the 40. They exceeded the expectations. Rewarding people it varies from person to person, right? And obviously, we're going to do one on motivation here in a little bit, another lesson on that. Everybody thinks it's money, right? But money's not always the best motivator, right? It's not the best motivator. So you got to know what is rewarding to the individual, money or something else. And you want to be generous with the appreciation, and it's got to be a genuine appreciation, right? Uh, so if somebody does something good, recognize it. In fact, there's a golden ratio, about 3 attaboy, attagirls to 1 criticism, right? That seems to be about the magic number. You just want to give all, yeah, you're doing great, you're doing great, you're doing great. After a while, they become numb to that. So, but be generous with your appreciation. It's got to be a genuine appreciation too. Don'ts, right? To change a culture from one that's the old traditional way, the boss tells you what to do, not paid to think, to one where you got empowered teams and you got people working together. It usually takes about 6 months to 2 years, right? So it's going to take time. So it's kind of like how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right? And also, even if your organization or management doesn't immediately reward you or the team, you can internally reward. Um, we used to go out and say, okay, after this is done, let's go out and have a beer. There you go, right? We just hang out together, drink a beer, talk about what a good job we did, and it's internal. And hopefully later on, the organization will come back and recognize and reward the team. And don't sit there and just pretend like you or think that you know how your team is doing. Uh, you got to be involved in this. And in fact, we talked about how important a goal was for the team. I like a metric, something that you can measure so you can see how you're advancing towards that goal. Um, it's good to keep score. It's good to keep score. Your team will perform much, much better. If you watch a Family Feud, if you ever watched it, right, as they go down, if there's one of the family members just makes a terrible, terrible guess, the husband, hey, good answer, good answer. They slap each other, high-fiving, even though they know it's crap, right? Show appreciation, right? And even if it's, the effort. If somebody makes an effort, appreciate that, right? And they'll do the same to you. That's what good teams do to each other. They support each other. Individuals in a high-performing team have a chemistry with the other people in the team. They work very well together. Think about the Detroit Pistons, 2004. Man, I just remember when Ben Wallace would come down. He didn't have to look. He knew where Billups was going to be. He just whip it out to the fast break, right? He just knew it. They worked together so well. They actually function as one entity, right? That's the word I want, entity. And again, the importance of goals, right? High-performing teams are improving the design, products, services, or company processes, but they all have a goal. And again, I'm going to stress, you want to keep score. What is your metric for determining success? What is it? High-performing teams know that score the whole time they're together as a team. So how do you make the high-performing team? Well, you want to use the best ingredients. And then what they're talking about here is get the best talent. And you want people that work well in teams. That's more important than anything else. If they can work within teams and they've had a proven track record, snatch them up and put them on your team. And you want everybody involved, actively involved, right? It might be tricky. Some people are just not inclined to speak up, but you want to hear everybody's thoughts, and you want them to participate actively in the team activities. Cohesiveness is where you feel a connection with the other team members, and you want to emphasize that, right? You just want to just basically let everybody know that you're all in this together, right? You're all singing Kumbaya together, and everything's okay. You want to emphasize that as much as possible. I was doing some consulting work with a company based out of India, and they didn't want to share information. They didn't want to share the productivity. They didn't want to share the quality data. They didn't want to share anything with the employees. Information is power, right? And basically what they did is they said the employees were basically going to just do exactly what they're told, right? And that's all they're going to do. And then the view was from management, information is power. And if I give that information to teams, I'm giving them power, which is true. It just so happened that this company did not want to give up the power. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about rewards, but recognition, team contributions. I remember the richest Hispanic. I worked for the richest Hispanic in America, Gus Ramirez. And I went up and told him, I said, wow, the PPC cell really worked hard. They got a lot out, and they kept the Caterpillar line running. So they went above and beyond. So Gus immediately got up from his desk. I mean, here's a guy, a billionaire basically. And he got up from his desk, walked out there, and shook hands with everybody in that cell, right? He recognized their contribution. And that cell became unstoppable after that. Of course, later on, he gave him a financial reward. But that handshake went a long ways, a long ways. You got to recognize team contributions. And this is just a slide that shows a cohesive team. One, they have the support, right? They identify themselves as a team, not as individuals. And they're relatively small. Good teams, if I'm on a team and I'm cohesive, I know what the other team members probably had for dinner the night before, right? That's about the size you want. And they're stable. Again, we talked about the longer a team exists, the more stable they become. And the leadership role goes away, right? And they're similar. And again, we're not talking about everybody looking the same or anything like that. We're talking about they think the same, right? Groups that think the same, I mean, they could have different ideas, but they get to where they want to go faster. Similar thoughts and satisfaction, right? And they honestly take pleasure in watching other team members succeed. And they get satisfaction from when everybody else succeeds, not just them. What is a distributed team? Well, this is one where we have different locations. And well, think of the pandemic. Probably several of you had Zoom classes. So is it possible you can become a team if you're not in the same location? And I think it is now, right? I'll be interested to hear your ideas on this. And of course, there's going to be some special requirements. Other than if you're not in the same geography, you got to work differently. Some things you got to do when you're working with distributed teams. First of all, you got to recognize the difficulties. And know there's going to be hiccups, right? Just recognize that. And it's going to happen and just deal with it, right? Find solutions. Yeah, we have technology now, right? We have Facebook, FaceTime. We got all kinds of ways to stay in touch with each other with the internet and things like that. Back when I was a kid, we basically had to use pen and paper and send it in the mail. We have instantaneous communication and technology to link people together. This is going to sound a little bit gross, but they find that teams need to have all five senses working with their teammates to actually get cohesive, right? And so you not have face-to-face meetings. Every once in a while, it's going to sound gross, but we literally have to smell each other, get that fifth sense in there, and you have to have occasional face-to-face meetings. And you want to use a coordinator. That used to be you had to have somebody in charge of the meetings and things. You still do, but thank you, Mr. Zoom now, right? I've had so many Zoom meetings. The technology has actually taken over the role as a coordinator also. And you want to stay connected, right? So you want to set up and attend regular activities. Just keep everybody together and familiar with each other, what's happening with the team. Some don'ts, right? Distributed teams just aren't going to work like a traditional team does, right? There's no physical presence usually. It's a virtual presence, so don't expect it to work the same way. If any of you have ever been on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or something like that, it's very easy to become impersonal and dehumanize other people. Be polite. Be polite. Don't be a jerk. Right? Just be human. And never miss a chance to meet in person, right? If you can, never miss that opportunity. Don't rely solely on internet, online, Zoom. Meet in person whenever you can, and stay engaged. If you got an activity, try to make sure you go to all the activities. Don't miss the Zoom meeting. Just whenever don't make excuses for not going. And while I'm thinking of this, have any of you been on a esports online teaming? I'd be interested to hear your comments on how that goes. Put it in the discussion. Okay, this is out of the book, right? So a lot of these skills that they're talking about are the same as any team skills. You're going to manage your projects. You're going to have to network, not face to face, but over the technology, using the technology. You're going to have to be polite. There's going to be differences in culture and in interpersonal differences. Individuals are still individuals, even though they're thousands of miles away, maybe. But these are some skills you need to learn. These are the soft skills. Yeah, this is out of the book. I'm not a big fan of this slide. This was actually, don't look up Second Life. We got Zoom. You guys be familiar with how you in a virtual world, social networks, Facebook and Twitter. That's the way it goes. And businesses can use virtual world, Zoom or MS Office Meets. There's different ways of doing it, right? But there's a lot of technology out there, not just Second Life. Yeah, you know how to do this all better than I can do it. You know how to create an account, interact with people on the network you're on. You know how to form groups in like Facebook, Twitter, whatever, right? And you know how to have meetings also, I bet. If you haven't been to a Zoom meeting, let me know and we'll have one in class. This is going to be tough because we all got jobs and things like that. It's going to be tough to find a common time when we can all meet. But if you'd like to try it, let me know. We can do it. So last two slides, we've done an understanding of why teams are in organization. We had the different types of groups and teams. We know the difference between groups and teams now. And we're pretty sure we know how to get team success. Again, it's a common goal and metrics. Again, we're relying on management to empower the teams. Everybody's motivated by rewards, whatever that may be. High-performing teams is a transformation process. It takes time. And again, I'd like to hear what you think about distributed teams, how you could do that. And that's it.